Welcome back to another episode of In Focus with Haversine Funding. So when we started this podcast, it was our initial intention for it to be a limited series. We weren't sure what the feedback was going to be. We weren't sure how long it was going to last. We had this idea, and that's kind of all it was at that point. Well, based off the feedback that our viewers and listeners have given us, we decided to extend it. We rebranded to In Focus with Haversine Funding as more of a permanent podcast that we're doing, and I can't thank our viewers and listeners enough. None of this would be possible without you. We've had some great guests on, and some of the feedback that we've got from our viewers and listeners is, well, who's Haversine? You guys are hosting this podcast, but we don't, some of our viewers and listeners don't know the Haversine story and who we are and what we offer. So we figured now would be a good time to kind of set the stage and introduce ourselves. I'm your host, Nolan Reichert. I've been with Haversine Funding for a little over 2 years, approaching 3 years now. Seems like time is flying. My title is Vice President and Head of Originations. I started in the factoring industry back in 2011 as an intern with actually our president, Jen Merritt, who you'll meet in just a second, if you don't already know her. Started out as an intern, kind of worked my way through the different spaces in the factoring industry, from collections. I shadowed account managing, underwriting, and finally landed at business development, which was really my pride and passion. I spent some time in the transportation space as well, and now I'm at Haversine and hosting a podcast, and I couldn't love it enough. I'm very excited for the journey that we've had, and I wanted to bring on our co-hosts that you've seen throughout these episodes. Jen Merritt, our president. Yes. Jen, can you introduce yourself, your role at Haversine, and kind of how you got here?
Sure. Jen Merritt Parikh. I president of Haversine. I have been here 4 years. I'm approaching 4 years. That's crazy.
It is.
And I've been in the space I'll just cap it at 29 years, and we'll never talk about it again. I was like 20 when I started. Don't do the math on that, by the way. I started as a receptionist and worked nights to answer the phone at a factoring company, and then just kind of moved up and eventually moved to asset-based lending, and then back to factoring. I worked at banking along the way, but today I've worked with Nolan in the past. I remember when he said, I think I want to go in business development, and I was like, are you sure? If it works, it's great. If it doesn't work, anyhow. But he's been great, so it's awesome, and we're still now together.
Yeah.
So, at our last company, a factoring company, we sold to a bank, a national bank, and now at Haversine, we have several people from the old Allied team that have joined to kind of help build and grow the company. So I'll go flip that over to Jeff, our CFO.
Yeah, Jeff, our other co-host, or host, I should say, /host for the day. Jeff, can you kind of tell us your story and how you ended up at Haversine?
Well, first off, before I get into that, it's always funny when Nolan mentions, well, here I am doing a podcast. It's always funny that our founder and CEO, Stan Vukmer, is the one that kind of proposed this, and he said, why don't y'all go do a podcast? And he mentions that, but he has not been on the podcast yet, and I've got to point that out.
Yes.
I'm Jeff Whaley. I've been here at Haversine for about 3.5 years now. I'm a relative newcomer to the factoring asset-based lending industry. My background is more, I guess, maybe in the way of putting it, the Wall Street side of finance. I mean, I worked for Goldman Sachs for about 10 years, worked for another hedge fund before that called HBK for about 5.5 years, started my career in public accounting. So for me, it's been fascinating to get into this business, and I think today will be great. And whenever we do these podcasts, it's wonderful for me because I feel like I'm learning every time we do this. So today will be no exception. So, it's great to be here. I've enjoyed my time. Basically, at Haversine, I handle essentially the financial reporting, back office, any of the sorts of things where I'm not as much client facing, but that's generally what I do here.
Yeah, I think both Jen and Jeff are underselling their roles a little bit. We all have the opportunity to wear many hats. They contribute greatly to all the day-to-day, as does the rest of our team. So we've kind of set the stage on who we are, our background. So now, Jen, who's Haversine? What do we do?
Haversine.
Yeah.
Haversine's been around 6 years now, and we started as with Stan having this idea of how to, go into the specialty finance space and how to, help lenders grow, how to help them achieve their successes. It's kind of like our name. It is Haversine, not Haversine, unless you're in Texas, and then it's fine because that's where we are too. But it's a formula. It's a math term, by the way. It's about how do you get from one point to another, taking into consideration latitude and longitude. So it's the most efficient and direct path, and that's what we try to do is get and help our lenders and support them, the lenders we work with, to get where they're trying to go in the most efficient and direct path as possible. So when Stan started, that was his goal. At the time, we were 90% participation focused.
Right.
So a participation would be you are a lender, you have one deal, one loan, one client that is, maybe it's too large. Maybe you want to reduce your exposure for some reason, or it helps you win the business if it's a large deal. We can come in and help share in that funding without your customer knowing. So we're sharing in one specific transaction on, an even basis, and we just help you get the business, right? And but that kind of grew, and it grew into somebody called at some point and said, well, I want to start a factoring company, and I've done this I think they've done it for like 30 years. And we said, oh, well, we can probably help with that. We've done this before, and they have. So now they've started. We've been working with them for 3 or 4 years now. And what we did is we provided a senior line of credit. And that senior line is different in the sense it's not a participation in one deal. It is like a line of credit to that platform, that finance company. And we're funding, 75 to 85%, I'd say, on their advances. And that helps them get more capital to leverage their own equity and other stuff to kind of grow their business. But that kind of led to something else, because then somebody else called and said, well, I already have a bank line and I still need more capital because I want to increase my bank line. And my bank said that they had put more money in, they were tapped out on that. And so we said, well, we can come in a second lien. So it's a junior kind of revolving line of credit, sub-debt, mezz, whatever you want to call it, is structured a little differently. We effectively come in at 95% of your advances minus whatever your bank is owed. And that kind of helps you leverage your equity further, helps you grow the business further. And then in some cases, we offer them together. So it's kind of like a unitranche, but layered together. And then sometimes we also throw participations in there as well. So we kind of finance all different pieces. We've structured our products to be so they can work together, but they also really help with the beginning stages of your growth and where you're going to kind of continuing that growth to even where you want to exit. So we want to be able to support lenders and factors the entire way of their journey. So I don't know if that's probably too much information, but
No, I think that was perfectly said. Yeah.
Well, to take the metaphorical microphone away, I'm going to ask a question now. You always ask the question.
Yeah.
But it's my chance to ask you a
your time
question.
to shine.
Jeff secretly wants to be the host.
It was notable. You found me out, but Jen talked a lot about kind of what are the types of products we offer, and I mean, given your role, business development, going out and actually talking to potential clients, I guess give the people out there of an idea of what is a typical, if there is such a thing, what does a typical Haversine client look like?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So really what a Haversine client looks like is a commercial lender. Their product is secured. So if, looking at a portfolio, to give specific examples of types of lenders, it's factors, it's asset-based lenders, purchase order financiers, inventory lenders, equipment lenders or leasers, real estate lenders. It kind of covers the gamut of different types of lenders and in different areas of growth as well. It is a lender who is just starting up and is growing rapidly and needing access to capital. It's the lender that already has a bank facility. And as Jen mentioned, there needs to be an additional injection of capital. Or it's the lender that just needs to carve out a specific deal for Haversine to look at, and that's the participation model that you look like. So really, from a very broad lens, a Haversine client, what that looks like is a commercial lender that covers, some of the main collateral groups there,
Right.
and is looking to tap into for additional capital. And we can, use our creativity and our flexibility to solve their challenges and help their needs. And the ultimate goal is to help you get to your end goal and help you scale and grow. And we're just a partner, but we're also not just a capital partner, which I'll let, further on, we kind of tap into that as well.
Right.
So, in a very broad lens, that's what a Haversine client does look like today.
Yep.
And we offer, I don't know if we offer lines of like $1 to $25 million.
Yep.
So we can help in any, wherever someone's going with that. So I think that's important too. That whole bucket of lenders is what's private credit and specialty finance, but we have this niche of it that's collateral based. So it's for us, it's not necessarily like consumer loans that fall in that bucket or anything like that. So just to kind of hone that in a little,
Right. Yeah.
because it sounds like a lot. We said all these
does.
different things.
Yes. Thanks for kind of adding a little bit more color there.
Yeah.
Can you kind of walk us through?
Oh, me again.
Yes. I'm just kicking it. You had the hot mic. You were on a roll.
Yeah. Okay.
What does our process look like?
I think it's easy.
Yeah. So if I was a lender today,
Call us and find out. No, I'm just kidding. Not kidding. Really, call us.
Yes.
It's really the same stuff lenders get from their own clients when they do this
Yep,
process.
very
Or when you
similar.
go to a bank and you go through and give them information, we go through it much more faster. We try to be more efficient. Everyone that is in the company in the portfolio and underwriting side has been a factor in asset-based lender or been in lender finance before, which is kind of our segment where we focus. And so we know what to ask for. We know all the software that's out there. We know how to read the reports. We know what we're looking at. We don't have to ask a whole lot of questions to figure it out. So the fact that we can know that information, it speeds up that entire process. We have a limited list of information. We'll take that information and send out a proposal or a term sheet.
Yep.
And once we get that back, we ask for more information, and then we pretty much have a quick field exam. What that is some places you'll go and if you have your own finance platform, you'll have your bank come in for 3 to 5 days to do a field exam with an auditor. It's not a financial audit, it's a collateral audit and a process audit. And we do that, but we do it in about half a day to a day. We have an internal person that does that and focuses on that. So it makes it a lot easier. It speeds up, it takes out about a week and a half, 2 weeks of the process. We try to get everything done within 60 days. I'd say we're probably 30 to 45 days in general.
Yep.
Depends on the situation. And then we go to docs. So, it is pretty straightforward. And it's stuff that you already have handy and available. So.
And a quick note about the field exam, it's not just us testing you, but I feel like most of our clients that we talk to, they get something out of the field exam.
Absolutely.
It's a two-way street. It's not just a test. It's a resource as well, I think is a good way of putting it.
Yeah, no, that's greatly noted. And, as Jen kind of alluded to, we're not a bank, and we also, in our past lives set in the same seat that our clients are in. So it really helps us adapt. And when Haversine started and, adapting, okay, well, how can we make this process as seamless as possible for you? What are some things that are important for us, and how are we able to view it through the same lens our clients are? So kind of our past lives gives us a little bit more perspective and allowed us to make that process flow faster. I know a lot of times that is a difficult situation when dealing with a bank. Is it's very, very thorough, and it tends to take a little bit more time. And some of our clients they could use this money yesterday. So we really want to make it as seamless and make it the most sense.
Sure.
Stuff that you should have readily available, and to speed up the process to get you to the finish line as quick as possible. And I think that's important to note, something that we really noticed and identified as a pain point, and we wanted to make sure the product that we were bringing to the table alleviated all that stress when you get a doc checklist that's 10 feet.
75
Yes. And you're like,
items.
whoa, okay.
Yeah. Ours
so-
is not 75 items, by the way. I just want to make that clear.
yes.
But you bring up a good point though. We want to get to it. Sometimes it's not even. Sometimes it's not a yes. Sometimes it's a no. But we want to get to that point as quickly as
Right.
possible.
That is
and I think that's
Yes.
something really important to note as well.
That is very important. And if it is a no, you know, I think we challenge ourselves and we place importance that if it's not a fit for us, we really want to identify who it might be a fit for. And
Right.
with where we are able to sit, the resources, the network that we have, we're able to work alongside different types of lenders, and we know the space well enough to where even if it doesn't fit in Haversine's bucket, we want to point it into the right direction.
Well, even if it didn't, or it's not going to be just a no. It's going to be not either not now, or these
Right.
are the things that that these are the reasons. We really try to be very collaborative in the process.
Definitely. Jeff, I'm gonna look to you here.
I thought I was
He loves it.
avoiding the
He
line
loves
of
it.
fire.
Kind of switching gears. As I mentioned, we do get to sit in a unique seat where we have a lot of visibility in the industry.
Sure.
What are you seeing from? I'll let you kind of take it from sort of a globe or a very macro level in the private credit space.
Okay, let's talk about private credit. I mean, I think that a couple of things are happening. One, interest rates obviously they rose at a meteoric rate over the past 18 months, which is, we're still trying to figure out what kind of effect that has had on the overall economy, and I think it's been a little bit uneven, so that's more difficult to assess. But for us directly in private credit, it's attracted a lot of people to private credit that may not otherwise be interested. I mean, because again, I think a lot of family offices, a lot of firms, a lot of investors, they've chased private equity or equity or equity gains because they just like the rate of returns. Well, with interest rates where they are, the rate of returns in this industry are a lot juicier. So there's a lot of liquidity that's come into the space. So I mean, I think that's probably one of the bigger trends as far as how private credit, what's changed in private credit, not just private credit, how it's actually filtered down to the asset-based lending industry as well.
Yeah. And one thing, that we have these conversations internally daily,
Right.
because we want to make sure that we
Yeah.
have a right pulse on everything, because we want to also inform our clients. I think that's important. That's
Yep.
what we're seeing, and just full transparency there. We're seeing a lot of investors rush to the space, which is causing this space to grow. And with that growth, one thing that we're seeing is increased deal flow. And I think sort of what puts pressure on that is there's more capital to be deployed in the space today
It is.
than there was if you were to rewind it 5 years ago. The returns are higher because interest rates that we're seeing. So I'm seeing a lot of groups, new lenders come to the space, identifying more opportunities. And ultimately, it's leading to borrowers being able to get funded easier. There's more products out there now.
They have more options.
Yes,
Many
so
more options,
many
yeah.
more options. It is. When I started in the industry, it almost factoring was still a very important piece to a small business, but it might not have been the first option. A lot of times it wasn't. It was sometimes looked at like the F word, like factoring. I don't want to. I don't want to. I want to go to a bank.
Right.
I'm bankable. I'm a growing small business. And now I think the perspective is flipped quite a bit, where it is you have so many different solutions, so many different offerings that can solve for your today's problem, and
it's faster.
It's faster. It's more competitive today than it ever has been, which is good and bad depending on how you want to look at it. But
It's good because there's more deal flow and then
Yes.
people have options. It makes it harder for lenders and factors just because people have more options, so they're taking more time to evaluate their options. I feel like deals are taking longer to get through decisions and for people to kind of, I don't know, it just makes it harder.
Yeah.
But it's good for the companies that are out there.
And one other thing to mention, and it's funny because you and I talked about this in a podcast. Gosh, how many months
yeah, it was
ago?
one of our. I think our
one of
third
our very
podcast.
first ones,
Yeah.
like shortly after the Silicon Valley Bank implosion. I kind of felt, everyone was predicting doom and gloom for banks. And, I think one of the things I said was banks are going to be okay. They're going to work their way through it. And true enough, that's what we're seeing. We're seeing, I think banks are still very active in this space.
They are.
And that hasn't, I think they pulled back a bit, but obviously there are some banks that are still experiencing distress, but I think in general, you're seeing a lot of bank activity in the space as well.
Yeah.
I feel like it's been more this summer than it has. It's been gradually.
Yeah, I agree.
But I feel like there's definitely movement, and banks are opening up on credit and things like that too. So that's creating more options and more competition, and it's affecting all structures, rates, everything. So
yeah, and this is just me thinking out loud. Is it optimism that is in the industry where a lot of these small businesses are in such a growth mode where they're just pushing and they're needing capital, because like you said, I think everyone expected the banks to kind of hold in close and they're
at least for longer.
Yeah,
longer,
right?
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's groups that are, they're really just tending to the herd, and but overall, the train doesn't seem to be slowing down, which is, awesome for all of us and our listeners.
Makes for interesting times.
It does, yeah. Yes. Or is it, Jen? Would you add? Is there any other trends that you're seeing day to day?
Across the board, acquisitions. People are talking more about selling their finance platforms, or buying them for growth because it is more competitive. They have these big hurdles. I think people expected to have more. Yes, there's more deal flow, but is that coming to them? Are they getting it? They had bigger goals for the year. And so the question of, do you grow organically or do you grow by acquisition? And I feel like acquisitions seem to be a hot topic right now. We have clients that are looking at acquisitions. They've asked us to help finance those. If any of those come to fruition, they've asked for help just in the whole process for that. But acquisitions are a topic, and people are selling, especially like transportation or people that have been around a long time that don't have a succession plan. They're looking at those options as well.
And I think a big driver behind that is the competitive landscape we talked about. It's you are, if there's limited opportunity and more competition out there, you can sell, if that was your end goal, you can move that along, or you can also grow by acquiring. So we're just seeing a lot of activity in that.
One other thing, not to belabor it too much, but Jen mentioned succession planning. I think we are seeing the very beginnings of a generational shift in the industry, and that I think that as we go through that, you're going to see a lot of acquisitions just as a result of just single or family owned businesses, either if they don't have a succession plan, selling or being acquired.
Absolutely. So we kind of talked about how what we're seeing, the changing environment, that kind of leads. I'm giving a layup here. So what is the Haversine Advantage? What is, like, with what we're seeing, the pulse that we have on the industry, how does Haversine help our clients, and not even our clients, just other, members in the industry?
I think I would say point to people first. We've got a great group. We've got an interesting mix. We have people like Jen and Vince, and you have a lot of experience in the asset-based lending industry. And so it's not like we're a private credit fund that's come to make a loan. We actually have people on our team who sat in the same seats as our borrowers. And then on top of that, we actually have people, not to toot my own horn, but like myself and like Eddie, our controller, who come from, a different perspective. So that's more, kind of more Wall Street or more related to the large investment banks. So, I think we've got a really good mix of those two sides of the coin. I think offers a really attractive mix for clients.
Yeah, that's great. I'll jump in there. Another thing that we're doing, which we kind of talk through our different products and our deal structures, is what we bring to the table is our flexibility. We understand that not all of our clients are in the same stage of their life. They need different things. So we're able to offer different flexibility, whether that's higher advance rates, whether it's, the unitranche facilities, which you had mentioned, where we can take a blend of senior and sub debt. But also it's just really important for us to know your challenges and how does Haversine play its part. We're not a must check all these boxes type of lender. We understand your needs, and I think we do a great job with our expertise and knowledge in the industry to try to build a solution around that, and we have the flexibility to do so. Jen, how would you say we use our advantage, or what is an advantage that you think we have?
Well, I'm gonna start on two then.
Okay.
One is taking on what you were talking about as far as that flexibility, and then figuring out and understanding the lender, right, and the client and their needs. So we really need to work on that together to understand where you're trying to get to and where you're trying to grow to. So I think that goes with what you're saying on that piece, and then taking that information, with the team that we have, and using that experience and where we've all been before, as far as people like Cheryl's and Vince and working at places where we were lenders, where we sold platforms, where we've been in businesses that were sold. You kind of get to see different elements of how all that works, right? And so you can take that, and whether it's a startup or someone that's grown larger and sold, figure out what works and what doesn't. And so we get the benefit of learning from that. And so this is where I'm kind of going. I love the fact that we get to be a part of being more than the capital provider, right. That we get to know where you want to go. We get to take that information, figure out, well, are we a sounding board? Do you need help with underwriting? What are you seeing that we're not? What are we seeing that you're not? Where are you having struggles with deals? Can we help with that? So wherever it is, it's more than just being the capital. It's kind of figuring it out together. I know it sounds like we're super hyper involved, but we really want to be partners together and try to help with all those situations. And I feel like because of the people on the team, that allows us to do that. I mean, they've all been in that space. Right. They've all done those things. So
we like building those success stories. I mean, that's really ultimately
it is. Creating stories.
I think it's we're giving, Jeff discredit and other members on our team, Eddie Munn, our controller, a discredit, because we know the industry and they're sort of the madness behind the scenes, where how can we make this flexibility work for Haversine? We kind of have the easy job.
We're like, hey, we want to do this, and you're like, oh.
We pass it off to them and say, hey.
Well, and Veronica for all the stuff, keeping it together.
It's a huge shout out to Eddie and Veronica both for making things work.
Yeah, we have such a wonderful team. And Jeff, we were talking.
And I don't want to forget Milena either, because she does all this other stuff. So I don't see her, but she's also does all the marketing stuff. I mean, it's crazy. I love it. It is, yes. So Milena has a huge role in what you guys see from Haversine from a visibility perspective. She also works hand in hand on the accounting. So we just really all around have a strong team, which before this podcast, we were actually talking, what's advice we would give commercial lenders today.
Sure.
And Jeff was kind of talking about the back office. Jeff, can you kind of share a little bit more about that?
I mean, I think that it's very easy. I mean, a lot of the people we work with, they're more from there's nothing wrong with business development. They're from a business development background, and they're good at going out and getting business, which is fantastic. If you can't find clients, there's no point in being in business. But, my comment is, do not neglect your operations and your back office. Because again, a lot of times when, Jen mentioned, we'll see that there's portfolios or platforms that are up for sale. One of the things that we're going to look at, and any potential buyer is going to look at, is how good is the back office? Is this really a platform that I want to acquire? And it's not just from an effectiveness standpoint, from an efficiency standpoint. I think what's really going to help you stand out is viewing operations not as a necessity, but as a value add. And I think it's also something that your clients appreciate as well, and it helps make your clients stickier. So that's my one point, is do not neglect the back office.
It's very good, very important. Okay, Jen, passing this one off to you. What advice would you give a commercial lender in the space today?
Build a culture. One where people have knowledge, they're learning, they're growing, and create your own, succession plan for the future on that. So
I definitely, and I have to kind of toot your horn, Jen. I've been with you multiple stops in my journey, and I think that's something that you have placed really, a staple, making sure that it's a culture where there's trust, there's transparency. Everyone can be candid with each other, but not only that, which something I think is very important, is making sure that there's just always continuing education. We want to get better every single day. The industry is evolving constantly. I mean, we could go back to our desk right now. There might be, some industry change. So it's so important to kind of stay ahead of that. And there's so many resources out there with how quickly the industry is growing that you can kind of tap into. And I do think that we take a very great advantage of using that to our advantage, making sure that we're always trying to strive our best to be at the forefront, so we're not trying to play catch up.
Exactly.
I agree. I mean, I want everyone to grow and learn, right? And it makes us better if everyone knows more and shares more, and it just becomes stronger together. So, and then you're not reliant. It's like a whole team. And I love the fact that at Haversine especially, everyone has their piece, but it's like a real piece. It's not like, oh, we're all in this, it really is like we can't function without everyone having their specific expertise, and then we all cross collaborate and share that. And I like to see that. So,
yeah,
no doubt.
Yeah, it's that's a very important piece, and I'll kind of
we have cheesy fun too. Sorry,
I'll tap into some advice as well that I think is really important, and I get to talk to these prospects and these clients every day, and one thing that really helps us find a solution for their challenges is knowing your client, knowing your prospect. What drives their business? What's their end goal? What does their team look like? And what are all the functions? Just because finding out their story and what drives them, you will pick up on, oh, well, you mentioned that. Here's how we can help outside of just capital. Capital is a great solution. It helps, but that's not always their biggest need. And they might come to us as that's their biggest need, but knowing your client, knowing your prospect, you will identify so much more in their story and their end goal and how you can be a long-term partner. And I think that's the basis of the foundation of long-term happiness, a long-term marriage. You have to know your partner. You have to know what they find important and how it plays into your role and what you can provide for them.
Agreed.
Yeah,
I like it. And like you went on a whole different. Be happy with Haversine.
I mean, I think a good way of putting it is to build a success story. You need to know what success looks like, and I think that's important.
That is greatly said.
Yes, well said.
Well, Jen, Jeff, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
I think this episode has been long overdue, and we've been kind of chomping at the bit and excited to share our story and what we do and how we can help. And you can find us at haversinefunding.com. All of our contact information is listed on there. You can kind of get to know the team. You'll see us post on LinkedIn. We also have an Instagram, YouTube. You can find this podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, a number of different resources out there. And at the end of the day, that's what we want to be, a resource. We want to provide. So, and none of this would be possible without everyone back at home, all of our viewers and listeners. We can't thank you enough. You play such an important role in our success and giving us a platform. So all the applause goes to you. Thank you guys so much for joining us today's episode of In Focus with Haversine Funding. Remember to stay informed, stay inspired, and stay on course to growing your financial platform. Until next time.